were Indians that lived here for thousands of years before white people settled here, only 150 years ago. And one of the things that the Indians who lived out closer to the bay, one of the games they liked to play was a game called shinny. This might look like a walking cane, but no, it was like this. And they played a game very similar to hockey out there on the beaches. And one of the girls named Kaishis was very good at playing shinny, and her husband thought that was really cool. So even athletics, people that were good at athletics were esteemed back then.
Can we check that out, Melody?
Yeah, you might pass that around. Maybe the children would like to feel that. That's been hand carved in more recent days, of course, but that's made out of a piece of very tough old vine maple. You can see it's very strong wood. After white people settled, logging started here right away. The Indian peoples also used wood. They made their canoes out of wood. They made houses out of split cedar planks. But the white people started cutting timber to export it, like down to San Francisco, to be made into lumber. This was an early tool. It would have taken 2 men to pull this through some of the big trees. And it's a double-handled saw.
Could we give you a little help there, Melody, with one on each end? Why don't you grab one end of that?
Okay.
Hold that up.
Now we got to get coordinated about this.
Yeah.
Would be,
so show us how that works.
It would be you pull and I push, or let you pull and then I pull, back and forth through the tree.
And that's a big saw, so that's a big tree.
The trees here were very big when they first cut them in the 1850s. The trees that were cut here had to be rafted up on the water. They were brought down and put into the water. And then they rafted them up and towed them with little tugboats into town, into the mills. And this tool had to do with the rafting. Does anybody recognize what that could be or want to guess maybe? It's called, okay, Daniel?
Maybe you tie a rope onto the circle.
Very good. This was driven, the sharp point was driven into the logs of the log raft. Then they could tie cables or ropes to this, and it helped them control the logs as they moved them up the bay to the town. So that's what that is. It's called a dog.
A log dog, huh, Melody?
Yeah. So you can see that trees were very important to the landscape here, and when the trees were logged, that was one of the biggest changes to the landscape here.
Chris Sheridan. Chris is a forest ecologist with the BLM. Is that right, Chris?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. And Chris has some students here from Sunset Middle School that are going to help him out. What are they doing, Chris?
Today we're going to talk a little bit about trees, and we're going to estimate the age of some of the trees right behind us.
Excellent. What kind of trees grew in the Coast Range here, or grow in the Coast Range?
Well, as you can see behind us here, the Coast Range and the southwestern coast, like we have here, are dominated by a number of trees, including Sitka spruce, Port Orford cedar, western hemlock, Douglas fir, and red alder.
Great. And the Sitka spruce, that's the one that we have here in the foreground. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Sitka spruce has a number of characteristics which make it really do well here on the south coast, including the ability to use fog drip, which we get in the summer, as well as having these buttresses, these large forms at the bottom for the unstable soils that is.
So they might grow pretty quickly. Now we can check out the age of this tree, right? Do you have a tool to do that?
Yeah, that's correct. I brought along an increment borer, which we're going to set up and actually drill into the tree to count the rings of that tree.
Very nice. All right. Well, while these students are working with Chris to get that set up, that's going to take them a little while. And so what we're going to do now is, Melody, we have some pictures prepared that Melody is going to talk about here a little bit.
Well, estuaries along the Oregon coast had vastly rich fisheries. Old-timers I've interviewed remember when the salmon in streams, such as the ones that flow into the slough here, were so thick they said they could walk across the water on their backs. Typical early-day logging methods included teams of oxen that pulled large trees down to the water. Logs were rolled into the water at constructed log dumps. Then they were gathered into rafts. Then small tugboats hooked onto them and pulled them up the bay to the mills. Later logging used methods that could reach virtually every tree in the hills and ravines here. Shallow tidewater was a problem for many logging activities. Dredges were floated up to dig out deeper channels. Mud pulled up from the bottom was often placed on hand-built dikes built by settlers and farmers along the slough. making the dikes taller and stronger and effectively removing land from the rich flows of the estuary. The logging brought people out here to the head of the slough. There was a logging camp near here and a little one-room schoolhouse similar to this one with grades 1 through 8.
Thank you very much, Melody. You did a sensational job of talking about those. All right, Chris, so how did it go with the increment borer?
Well, if you remember, we did get the cores done, and everybody was going to take a quick guess on the size or the age of this Sitka spruce that we cored. So did you guys have a guess on that? How old that was?
Yeah.
What do you got?
Like 150, 200.
Okay.
Any different guesses?
Like 60, 90.
100.
All right, how many of your viewers out in the audience guessed the age? Make your guess right now. All right, Chris,
Okay.
show us reality here.
So we were able to core these trees.
Let's make sure this gets in the sun so that they get some good light on it.
Okay, let me get out of the way. Okay, so this is the Sitka spruce that we actually started coring from before. We missed the exact center of the tree by a couple of inches, but as you can see, it's the part we got dates back to 1953. We add about 13 years for this part that we missed, or subtract 13 years, so that Sitka spruce back there probably started off about 1940.
1940. So, Melody, what was happening on South Slough in
I
1940?
think it's very interesting about 1940, but I better remember 1950 because in the 1950s I was a child growing up out here on South Slough, and I remember in the creek that I lived close to here, near here, there were salmon runs, and in the 1950s they were using, at that time, gyppo logging methods where they brought bulldozers in then instead of oxen to pull the logs. That was the most destructive to the landscape, the most thing that changed the greatest how things looked, and also caused a great amount of silting into streams. And I remember that the salmon that used to come up the stream where I lived as a child, those salmon runs were destroyed. So that was in the 1950s.
Cool. Well, not cool, but
Yeah.
massive change
Yeah,
to
I
this
think it's
place.
good for everyone to
Very
know
much
that.
So.